For a long time, two huge mysteries hovered over my life. I didn't understand them, and honestly, I was terrified to face them. The first mystery was this: I'm in my 40s now, and for my entire life, year after year, the rates of depression and anxiety have been climbing. First in the US and the UK, and now across most of the Western world. I wanted to know why. Why does it seem like, with every passing year, more and more of us wake up feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, and just unable to face the day? Why is just existing getting so much harder for so many of us? But there was another mystery, one that was far more personal, that really pushed me on this search. When I was a teenager, I went to my doctor and tried to explain this strange, uncontrollable ache inside me. It felt like emotional pain was just leaking out of my body, and I had no power to stop it. I didn't understand it, and I was deeply ashamed of it. My doctor listened, and then he told me a story. It was a story meant to help, and it wasn't completely wrong, but it was incredibly simplistic. He said some people just get a chemical imbalance in their brain, and I was one of them. The solution? Medication. Drugs would fix the imbalance. So I started taking an antidepressant called Paxil. At first, it felt like magic. The clouds lifted, and I felt a little more like myself. But not long after, the pain crept back. The dosage went up. Then it went up again. Eventually, I was taking the highest legal dose for over a decade. 13 years of doing exactly what I was told, exactly what our culture insisted was the answer, and yet, the pain was still there. I finally had to ask myself the question I had been avoiding: if I'm doing everything right, why am I still suffering? That question sent me on a journey all over the world, over 40,000 miles, to sit down with scientists, psychologists, and people who had lived through deep depression and anxiety and come out the other side. I wanted to know what was really going on beneath the surface. And what I discovered completely shocked me. It turns out there isn't just one cause for depression and anxiety. There are at least 9 scientifically recognized factors that can cause them. Yes, 2 of those factors are biological. Your genetics can make you more vulnerable, and certain changes in your brain can make it harder to recover. But the other causes, the vast majority, have nothing to do with what's happening inside your skull. They have everything to do with how we live. If you're isolated, your odds of becoming depressed skyrocket. If you have no control over your work, if your days feel meaningless, if no one truly sees you for who you are, if you rarely get to experience nature, your psychological foundation starts to crumble. And here's the part that really blew my mind: just like your body has physical needs like food, water, and air, your mind has natural psychological needs. You need to feel like you belong. You need purpose. You need connection. You need to believe your future makes sense. Our modern world is spectacular at giving us convenience, entertainment, and endless distraction. But it has become terrible, catastrophically terrible, at meeting our basic psychological needs. And that's not just an opinion, it's what the data shows, again and again. When those needs go unmet, we start to break down. Not because we're weak, not because we're defective, but because we're human. This idea only really clicked for me when I met a South African psychiatrist named Derek Summerfield. He told me about something that happened when antidepressants were first introduced in Cambodia. The local doctors there listened, a bit confused, and finally said, "We don't really need those. We already have antidepressants." Summerfield asked what they meant. They told him a story about a farmer in their community who lost his leg after stepping on a landmine. He was given an artificial limb and sent back to work in the rice fields, but the experience was physically painful and mentally traumatic. He eventually stopped getting out of bed and just cried all day. In the West, we would have handed him a bottle of pills. But the Cambodian doctors sat with him. They listened. They realized his suffering was logical. So they found a real-world solution: they bought him a cow. He became a dairy farmer instead of having to return to the field that haunted him. Within weeks, his depression evaporated. The doctors looked at Summerfield and said, "You see? That cow was his antidepressant. It sounds like a joke. My doctor prescribed me a cow, but beneath that humor is something truly profound. What those doctors instinctively understood is what the World Health Organization has been trying to tell us for years. Depression is not primarily a malfunction, it's a message. It's a signal that something essential in your life is missing. You are not broken, your needs are unmet. That realization changed everything for me. Once I saw depression not as a glitch in my brain, but as a response to unmet needs, I started seeing solutions I had never been offered before. And that leads to the first huge cause and solution I want to share with you. We have become the loneliest society in human history. Studies show almost half of all Americans say they have no one they feel truly connected to. Britain and Europe are close behind. Yet, human beings didn't evolve to live alone. Our ancestors survived not because they were the strongest or the fastest, but because they were connected to each other. We are tribal creatures. When you remove the tribe, the mind starts to deteriorate. One of my heroes, a doctor in East London named Sam Everington, saw this firsthand. Patients came to him with crushing depression, and while medication helped some, many remained trapped. So he tried something different. He started prescribing groups. One of his patients, a woman named Lisa, hadn't left her house in years. The first time she joined a group, the anxiety was so overwhelming that she threw up. But the group didn't judge her, they welcomed her. Together, they decided to transform a patch of wasteland behind the clinic into a garden. None of them knew anything about gardening, but that didn't matter. They learned together. They worked the soil. They watched things grow. And slowly, they rebuilt something far more important than a garden. They rebuilt a tribe. If someone didn't show up, the others would check on them. They talked. They cared. And as the garden flourished, so did their sense of meaning. Their depression began to fade, not because they changed their brains, but because they changed their lives. This approach is now spreading across the world. It's called social prescribing, and research shows it can significantly reduce depression and anxiety. The secret isn't some magical soil, it's belonging. And that connects to the second major cause I want to talk about junk values. Just like junk food ruins our physical health, junk values are ruining our mental health. We've been conditioned, by advertising, by social media, by a culture of endless comparison, to believe that happiness comes from buying things, impressing strangers, and accumulating status. But it's a lie. And the more we chase it, the emptier we become. The psychologist Tim Kaiser spent decades studying this. He found that the more people believe their worth comes from their achievements, their possessions, or what other people think of them, the more likely they are to become anxious and depressed. Why? Because it disconnects them from the things that actually give life meaning, real relationships, contributing to something bigger than yourself, creativity, and a sense of purpose. In other words, we are living inside a cultural machine that is designed to distract us from what truly matters. But the moment we stop feeding that machine, something miraculous happens. We start to reconnect with what we really are. We are human beings. We're not products. We're not status symbols or just another algorithm in a system. We are creatures who are wired for connection, purpose, and belonging. Depression isn't a sign that your brain is broken. It's a sign that your life is missing the things you were never meant to live without. And once you truly understand that, everything can begin to change. Thanks for watching.